Why are so many millionaires still continuing to leave the UK? Here we are in 2025, the new tax year, and actually, for many UK entrepreneurs, taxes have only gone up. We've got the increase to the national insurance rates, corporation tax still high, all of the personal allowance, the basic rate band frozen and staying that way until 2028. We've also got the end of the non-dom tax regime as well, which has forced a lot of wealthy foreigners out of the UK because certain trusts would be subject to IHT in the UK and it'd have other disastrous tax consequences. So really, in light of this, it's no wonder that more and more people are continuing to pack up their bags and leave the UK for a different lifestyle overseas, sometimes motivated by taxes, sometimes motivated by a better, safer life for their families. But really, is it all doom and gloom in the UK? Well, that depends on how you look at it. Certainly for me, I think the taxes in the UK are not a good return on investment. That's why I'm not based here, because can I reasonably be expected to pay 50% in taxes for my business, for me personally, for that money just to be squandered on loads of different politically motivated campaigns, wars in Ukraine, paying for asylum hotels, whatever it might be? That for me does not represent good value for money. However, if the money were being used properly, then I'd be one of the first people to come back and gladly pay that money. But I can't, in good conscience, come back and pay that huge amount of taxes when the pension, for the pensioners, the winter fuel allowance is being cut, for us to spend 10 times that on loads of different other campaigns, wars, whatever it might be, foreign aid, when it doesn't serve the people of the United Kingdom. And I'm not alone in that camp. So many of our clients are all on that same page. I'm sure a lot of viewers watching this are as well. So if you are looking at moving overseas in 2025, what's the best way of doing it? The first thing you need to decide is actually, where do you want to go? The first thing to decide is, where do you actually want to go? Because if you're looking to move somewhere for tax purposes, quite a lot of countries in the world actually have higher taxes than the UK do. Spain, the United States, most of Europe, they've all got pretty high taxes, to say the least. So if you're going somewhere tax motivated, you need to look at your different income streams. Do you plan on having capital gains? Do you plan on having dividends? Do you plan on having salary or employment income? Because the country you move to will tax those at different rates. Some countries have pretty high income tax rates, but no CGT or low CGT. So if you're looking at selling crypto, well, actually, CGT is your main income, so that could be your main motivator when looking at somewhere where you're going to relocate to. A lot of people have gone to Portugal. The scheme's now ended, but they're non-NHR, so you can get tax-free dividends. Thailand's a great example. If you do not remit your foreign income during that tax year in Thailand, well, actually, you can get that into Thailand tax-free in the following year. So with some clever planning, you can potentially live tax-free in Thailand, have some kind of overseas corporate setup, a company in Dubai, Jersey, somewhere else, Isle of Man, where there's low or no corporation tax for your business profits to be taxed at, and then that allows you to pay the dividends to yourself completely tax-free. So really, the first thing you want is, what type of lifestyle do you want? Find a country that fits that. For so many Brits now, Dubai is still the answer. Obviously, we've been talking about Dubai for probably about 3 years now. And it's still, literally, I'm having phone calls with people on a daily basis about moving to Dubai. So many people messaging me on Instagram, need help moving to Dubai. It seems to be the place. It's fashionable at the minute. And the reason for that is threefold. Essentially, you've got the good tax infrastructure there. You've got just 9% corporation tax, 5% VAT, and with some clever planning as well. Unless you really are a large business, you're not going to be paying the corporation tax in Dubai because, of course, salaries are tax deductible. You've got 0% income tax, you've got 0% CGT, you've got 0% IHT as well, especially with the changes around the domicile and the residency-based criteria that's in place now. A lot of people that have mobile assets, you might have crypto, you might have stocks in offshore accounts. Well, actually, if you move overseas for 10 years, somewhere such as Dubai, which you can through the golden visa, you could potentially completely de-risk your business interests and your investments from UK inheritance tax. Of course, it's worth mentioning any UK property is still fully subject to UK IHT, so you want to look at different planning strategies there, such as a family investment company or maybe a trust for your UK-based assets. But for international assets, with this new residency-based criteria for inheritance tax and who's chargeable, well, actually, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more certain as to 10 years outside the UK for anyone who's been living in the UK for a substantial period of time, and you can completely avoid UK inheritance tax on your overseas assets. The good news is, leaving the UK is actually pretty straightforward. Since 2013, I think it might be, they've had the statutory residency test, which basically makes it very easy to determine your residency status, and off the back of that, on the inverse, determine how to become non-resident. So for a lot of people, especially where you're running your own business and you're working for your own limited company, whether that's a UK company or an overseas company, you're probably going to be working full-time. Working full-time employed overseas, you've got to work at least 40 hours a week, no significant breaks, a couple of little details, you can't just work part-time, but as long as you tick that box, you can usually come back to the UK for up to 90 days per tax year and be non-tax resident. If you don't tick that box, maybe you're retired, well actually the conditions are a little bit harder and you might have to spend less time. But what I'll do is, if anybody wants a copy of the statutory residency test and an outline of how it works, drop it in the comments below and I'll shoot you a link to that. But essentially you've got the automatic overseas test, which is usually spending less than 16 days in the UK or working full-time overseas. Automatic UK residency test, which is usually you spend 183 days in the UK. In that case, you're pretty much always going to be tax resident. And then lastly, you've got the sufficient ties test, which is where it can be a little bit vague because you've got to look at the number of ties that you've got to the UK. Do you have a home here? Do you have family here? Have you been UK resident for the past 2 or more years? And a couple of different other ties as well that might apply. And then in that chart, it tells you the number of days in the UK and basically the number of ties that you're allowed. So if you spend 90 days in the UK, you might be tax resident if you've got 2 ties. And if you want to spend 90 days, well, actually, can you drop 1 tie? If not, you just have to spend less than that. You have to spend 45 days or whatever the next criteria is in that box. And that's all there really is to it. The first thing is deciding where you want to go. The second thing is making sure that you are definitely non-UK resident. That's where you should pay for the advice to make sure that you do get it done properly. Because if you think you're non-resident, but HMRC think otherwise, well, actually, you're going to have a problem because your worldwide income and gains will still be taxed in the UK if HMRC can successfully argue that you're UK tax resident. Certain types of income streams will always stay taxable in the UK, most notably property investments. So if you've got a UK business, so if you've got a UK limited company, that will pretty much stay in the UK. You will still be paying corporation tax on those profits as it's based here. Same if you've got limited companies with properties, that will still be subject to UK corporation tax. And any UK properties that are in your own name, they will also remain taxable in the UK as well. You'll have no other UK income in most cases, so no salary, no dividends. And as a result, that rental profit will be taxed at a much lower rate than it might have been if you were a UK resident. But for most people, where you've still got UK source income, such as dividends or interest payments, actually you usually forego your personal allowance under the disregarded income rules. We won't go on about it as it's quite complicated. It's probably an hour-long video in itself. And I think we might have covered it briefly in other videos as well. But if you are looking at moving overseas, make sure you do have a plan in place. Make sure you've got a proper guide as to how you're going to become overseas. Everything's formally documented. If you are working full-time overseas, you've got employment contracts to actually do those duties. You've got an overseas company set up. If you are looking at getting set up in Dubai, that's definitely something we can help with. Plan the number of days in the UK. And then once you've got all of that teed off, well, actually, it's time to kick back and enjoy life. A lot of people move overseas for the tax savings and how actually those tax savings can increase their quality of lifestyle because they're no longer paying HMRC £100,000, £200,000 a year. That money is now yours to keep. A lot of people invest 100, fantastic, you're much better off, and then increase their quality of living as well. If you want any help getting set up overseas, click that link below, book a call with myself. I'll run through our options and see how we can help you pay less in tax and live a better life overseas. Bye for now.